For 100 years, Memorial Day was always honored on May 30th. But in the late 1960s, many holidays and their dates changed to make three-day weekends. But as Dave Anderson explains, there's still some Northlanders who hold on to tradition.
The Vietnam Veterans Memorial is on the lake walk behind me, and for Vietnam area veterans, the memories of that conflict more than 50 years ago still very fresh.
The worst thing is the overrun fire base and the picking up bodies. Unbelievable stories.
Jerry Carlson was a Chinook helicopter crewman from 1968 to 70. Now he's a member of the Duluth Honor Guard, which commemorates Memorial Day on its original date of May 30th. In 1971, Memorial Day and most other American celebrations became floating Monday holidays to give three-day weekends. Veteran outrage got Veterans Day back on November 11th by 1978. These vets, however, aren't working to get Memorial Day back on its traditional date.
We have not been involved in that type of political arena.
Instead, the Honor Guard commemorates the fallen twice. Judith McKeever lost her Marine Corps brother Michael on a Sunday in 1968.
And we were notified at church, and I still have those vivid images and those memories that I will always have.
World War II vets are now around 100 years old, Korean War vets aren't far behind, and even Vietnam vets are now staring at 80. Judith McKeever promises to help them remember their comrades on both Memorial Days.
And hopefully I can continue on with their stories and share some of that, but I'm honored to be here every year.
The traditional Memorial Day ceremony in Duluth also pays tribute to our Korean War veterans who are getting into their 90s now, and their numbers are rapidly dwindling.
Well, the Vietnam War Memorial is on the lake walk near Fitkers. If you haven't been, it was dedicated on traditional Memorial Day of 1992. And close by are the Korean War Memorial and the USS Duluth Tribute.